recording on it. There we go. Yeah. And Marie's coming in. Hey, Marie. You're in.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, so we are starting the recording. Patty sent me a note and said she's going to work the election polls tomorrow morning. So she's setting up the voting stations tonight. So we won't have her tonight. So, okay, welcome to class. It's good to see you all again. And to me, this is the fun class because now we're finally into getting to pinpoint stars and star trails. And so now we're going to get into some fun stuff for you all. It's going to be hard homework, but it's the good stuff for once, for finally getting into it. Okay, so let's see what you did for homework for class 3. Okay, Ron, you get to go first.
Oh, no. Well, I didn't have any chance. It was so cold. I was on an RV camp out with our group, and it was the first time in 2 years that we got to see each other face to face. And it was cold and windy. So last night we got back home, and so I rushed down quickly and I thought maybe this theater, it's a new theater. And I wish I could have gone to the show. They had Crystal Gale there.
Yeah.
And everybody was dressed up and going into the theater. And I was hoping they would put the lights on, and they did. And I actually got to see a little bit of the Belt of Venus again.
Yeah. And then
in your building.
And then in your next shot, you can really see it.
Yes. And also these are JPEGs, and I didn't have a chance. I was busy this morning, and we had appointments. And so I just downloaded, and about all I did was sized them for your presentation. I couldn't enhance them at all. Yeah. So these are right out of the camera. So I'm just setting up the background here. Okay.
And then there you go.
And so it was still getting dark, but it wasn't dark enough. So I had to raise my shutter speed and lower my compensation to make it dark.
Yeah.
And by gosh, I was really surprised. I mean, how the taillights worked on a long exposure.
And you notice that we've still got twilight and still got the Belt of Venus up there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And this is that time when I start getting impatient because it's not quite ready yet. And you just have to kind of sit there and freeze your tail off, waiting for it, Yeah.
And it was hard. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So there it's getting darker, and actually got a starburst out of that street light.
Yeah. And then this is one that I played with, Ron, because not knowing if you'd worked on these or not. So now I understand that you didn't. But I just wanted you to show that if you bring out those shadows just a hair on these, once the sky gets good, just don't be afraid to bring the shadows out just a bit.
Wow. Yeah. Well, actually, I still forced it down to be dark because it still was kind of light at this point.
Yeah.
And that's it. I don't know if you noticed, I didn't work on any of the settings to show you, but I had a very low ISO. It was below 64. I don't know how they calibrate that, but Nikon, their cameras can really go to a low ISO.
Yeah.
And it was way under even the lowest of 64. It was
just trying to get it to look like twilight.
Yeah, it was still kind of light, but it was getting dark real quick. And then I was starting to fumble around, but I did have my red headlamp, which I actually at this point was starting to put my headlamp on so I could see the controls. I almost tripped once. I can see why it's nice to have a buddy with you. And then actually my tripod lever on the to hold the camera pulled off. And I said, it's time to go. Working at night is going to be difficult for me.
Yeah.
Okay? And so I think I got one more. I took a picture the other way, and Ted is the one that gave me the idea to go to Tomball, because I think you showed a picture like this.
I think I took a photograph from that very spot.
Yeah. And I live in Magnolia and there's no high place or anything to get taillights. So that's why I went down there. I said, by golly, that Ted got that picture last week. I'm going to go do it.
That's good.
And I just missed, there was something going on and there were police cars and sirens going on. And I should have turned that camera and got a police car going across the intersection with the lights flashing.
Those are always good.
I bet that'd be interesting.
Yeah, those are always good. Yeah.
The sky looks really pretty from this direction too. I really like that, the color in the sky.
Yeah, I turned to face west, and right, that was the last of the twilight.
Yeah.
And so these aren't touched. I mean, that's right out of the camera.
And that's also a good point, is that when you've got twilight going on, it'll happen first in the east. And then once the east gets kind of dark, you can move over to the west, and you should still have some more twilight sky left to the west.
Yeah. Okay.
Good job.
I took one more. There was a building there that they've decorated. They have festivals there. Into this month, they'll be doing the German festival. And it's Tomball's come to be pretty popular for that festival.
And then they had the trail riders through there this week.
Right.
It wasn't at night though.
Yeah, I've taken pictures of the trail riders before. Yeah.
Marie, it's rodeo time down here. And and there are these trail rides that go for like 150 miles or 200 miles, you know, a big, huge caravan of horses and covered wagons. And they've been doing this forever. And it's a big brotherhood thing and sisterhood thing. And they parade through all the little towns. Big deal right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Good job. Good job.
So I'm looking forward to a warm week coming.
Definitely. Okay, Susan, what'd you get?
Okay, well, I didn't have any of the lights that you were talking about, although I ordered them, and I got the Savage light, which I was able to use last night. But the first of the week, I thought I would experiment with just an LED flashlight and I had a project folder that was an orange color, and I covered the flashlight up with that to sort of make an amber. So I took one, I think this is the one with the amber folder over it, and then I took one with just the white LED so that, well,
there it is.
That's
the
one with the white light, and it was really bright. It was pitch dark. And the sky was so bright that I couldn't aim the camera at the sky because it just it overwhelmed everything on a long exposure. And so I aimed it at the ground at these pots, and just to test out the light. And that little, I mean, it's a small flashlight, little tiny flashlight, and it lit things up like I couldn't even tell from this picture that it was night.
It doesn't take much.
It
really
doesn't.
No.
And then I covered it with the amber, and it toned down that white. So I liked this one better because it was a more muted color, but it was still very, very bright. It amazed me how much it lit up the landscape there.
Yeah. And when you have low hanging clouds in the city that are getting the reflected city light coming up, it's bright. It's really bright. Yeah.
It really was. I couldn't do anything, taking pictures of anything towards the sky, but it was amazing how light it was outside. Even, I mean, this was like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It was still really light.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when the clouds are low, it just reflects a lot of light.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Well, last night it finally cleared after the whole week of clouds. And this was at the end of nautical twilight. So it was really dark. I had to use the light to see the everything on my camera. But then after this long exposure, it looked like it was bright out. The sky looked a lot lighter in this picture than it did when I was looking at it. But again, I tried the white of that light, and this is the white light, And then I turned the white off and I turned the amber on, and I like this much better, the warmer colors. And then I experimented I was moving around you can't see me, but I was moving around in front of the trees and all, and I took another picture or so to light up this one, to light up the other area. And so I had fun last night just seeing what the lights would do. But the rest of the week was kind of
kind of bust. It's interesting
a
how
bust.
once you get the directional lighting, it looks really pretty with the directional lighting.
Yeah, it really did. So
And the orange clear folder gave you an amber light.
Yeah, it did. It certainly toned down that bright white from the LED flashlight. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
Marie, here's your little doggy. You got to unmute.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. So I apologize. I was trying to do this outside, and I went the night before. And of course, I run out and I have a dog with me, and I get there and I'm in a dark park and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, my tripod. So I took this really cool picture of a bush and it blurred, and I'm going to keep it because I liked it, but it kind of didn't do it for this class for the assignment. So what I did with this was I have an LED light. I don't know if you can see this, and it's called the Great Video Maker. And even though there's amber on here, I'm having trouble getting it. I don't know what I'm doing. So I had it gives a little amber, but it gives it with the white light. So it's not, I think I'm going to go for the Savage and see what that's all about. I like the idea of using a clear folder too, to go through. I have a couple of those. I should have thought of that. Anyway, so this is a dark dog, and I'm sitting there on the couch, and he is a lump, and he finally isn't moving. So I took the picture because even though I had my tripod and I was doing it, the dog kept moving. So he got too tired at one point, laid down, and I started taking. So this is to show you what it's like without the light on him. And then he turned around, and so he's really kind of a grayish black, but black dogs are really hard. So this one's a little blurry. He moved, but I liked it, so I added it. And the light is actually a little beneath him and shooting up.
So some personality in him. And these LED lights, by the way, are really good on kids and pets because you're not hitting them with that flash.
Right.
So it's not a bad thing to use on kids and pets.
Yeah, you don't get the red eye.
You don't get the red eye, exactly.
Right. So I'm on the street. It's really early in the morning, and it's very foggy out. And I was standing in this one direction. It looks like those lights are across the street, but they're actually in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, I took that.
Where is
that
that
one I
like in Jersey?
No, New York City.
New York
But I'm
City.
all the way east, and so I'm in the quietest area of Manhattan.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nobody, and like I could walk across streets without even looking. It's so quiet.
Is that by the George Washington Bridge? Or?
No, this one is actually by Sutton Place, which is Midtown East, but it's all the way over to the river.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's no reason to come down those roads because you can't get to any of the bridges, or you can get to the Parkway, but not by me. So anybody who wants a Parkway would go up First Avenue and then head down. But this is 54th and 55th Street, and there's really just no reason for anyone to come there, which is so nice.
Except when you want to photograph taillights.
Yeah.
Except right, exactly.
No traffic.
So this one was good. I like this one. And again, it was so foggy out.
But not much twilight.
You know what? it was like 5 o'clock, 5 or 5:30 in the morning.
Okay,
Well, sun had just started coming up. It was so foggy.
yeah.
You couldn't really even see anything come
So
up.
you would have had to have been out there earlier in the morning because
Yeah.
twilight comes before sunrise. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
yeah. But you got good tail lights in here.
And then I did one, I don't know if I sent you of the bus that passed by. It had,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
that
your
one.
bus.
Oh, yeah. that's
Buses
cool.
always look really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, they have heights to them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think, Kathy? Is there anything I could have done different? Like, should I have waited
Should have
Or
come out a
maybe
little, should have come out earlier. So
a
that
little
you
bit
would,
earlier?
so that you would have got that more blue sky. Because you're still
Right,
getting
well-
taillights, but not a lot of really nice sky.
Right. It was an ugly sky.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
But
not
you
so
got-
sure earlier or later would have helped me. It was so bad.
Well, it should have. It's just hard. If it's really overcast nights or mornings, sometimes you just don't get it, but you're at least getting taillights. And so you're doing that one.
Okay.
And then also go back to this one. What lens are you using?
I am using the wide angle
The 11?
on that one. Yes.
Really? This
might
is
have-
11?
Yeah, that's the only one I carried with me that day.
Because
Well,
you
you got a
should,
little starburst there.
but
on-
11, you should have been super wide. Yeah.
I might have cropped it this.
Yeah, it
Okay.
looks like you cropped it for Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, I didn't put it on Instagram, but I definitely cropped it.
It's square, I mean, it's square.
Oh.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
with your 11, you should be able to get both sides of the street.
The thing is, there's garbage right on if where I was standing, the
Yeah.
whole area was full of garbage. So I wanted the picture to be a little nicer.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Because that 11 should be a good street photography lens.
Okay.
Good job. And that one's definitely cropped.
Definitely there. I think they're all, the other one with the, that we saw before, that one wasn't cropped it, I don't think.
Because even the one with the bus, this one right here, you should have easily had
Oh,
the
yeah.
second side of the
Yeah,
street.
trust me, if it looked good with the garbage, I would have left it.
Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, Ted,
Ooh,
good
that's fun.
starburst there.
Yeah. I looked, Kathy, for 4 days for a
Nice.
bridge that I could get on without becoming somebody's hood ornament.
Uh-huh.
And it was hard to find, but I ended up going down on 249 and getting
Yeah.
on the service road. And in preparation for the star trails, this is actually 6 photographs that I stacked
Oh, good.
just for fun.
Wow.
Yay.
Just for
Very
fun.
good. Yeah.
And it filled in all the voids, with
Mhm.
that you would have normally, because it's on a service road.
Yeah.
This is just before 2920 going south.
Okay. Okay.
But
Okay.
it
Very
was-
good.
It was
Very
fun.
Yeah, it's going over Spring Creek, that bridge looks like.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Very
Yeah,
good. And
nice
I'm
spot.
proud of you for doing the stack on this. Yeah.
yeah, that's the first time I've ever done it.
Yay.
You know,
Very good.
We did that in Big Bend, but
Uh-huh.
I never got the hang of
Uh-huh.
repeating it. I couldn't do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. But
the
now you did it.
instructions, I got it now.
Good. 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 Very good. And good twilight sky and definitely good starburst. What lens are you using?
That was a 24 to 105.
Okay. So not real wide.
No, I'm probably, I'm trying to cut out a toll station
Uh-huh.
to the left
Mhm. Mhm.
and some white signs on the right. So
Yeah.
I'm probably, I don't recall, probably at 85.
Okay. Very good. Come on. There you go. 1 second. Too much. There you go.
And
Oh,
this is just one. I was down in Galveston trying to take photographs of the full moon coming up across the water, as I was getting ready to leave, there was so much traffic. I just took this shot for fun.
Along the
And-
seawall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the seawall, right.
Okay. Yes, good twilight, got a good starburst going on. Definitely a lot of traffic. Is this a
Lot of-
stack also, or this is just
No,
one?
this
shot?
is just one photograph. I
Good.
didn't know how to stack then.
Okay, good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, good twilight.
And this is practicing in the backyard. Weather was terrible, but I was just practicing with the light. And I was so taken with the light that you put in the windows of the church that I thought I'd add a couple little table lamps to my bluebird house.
Oh, look at that. Oh, wow.
But I think this one was with the yellow light. And that one was with a blue light. And what I tried to do was follow your suggestion that rather than just paint it as if it's daylight, I just tried to run up the tree and into the leaves and then let the edges be natural.
Very good.
But open to suggestions. This was my first experience to light painting.
It's interesting how the light goes up in the wind chime and
Mhm.
catches up in the wind chime.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then here you put a tea light in the bluebird house
Yeah, I did.
or in the birdhouse.
Uh-huh.
That's good.
I love it. How'd you get up there? Is it that high?
Well, no, with a ladder. Crawled up there and
Yeah.
cleaned it out. It was time to clean it out anyway. And so I dropped a couple little lights in there.
That's
Very
great.
good. Creative.
Just fun.
Yeah. But it's good. And you've got a little bit of the twilight sky back there.
Mhm.
And then what kind of light were you using to get the green light?
Just a flashlight
Just
with one of Kevin's film over the
Okay.
top of it.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. One of the gels.
One of the jails, yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, what was it? 4 years ago, when I was there, I won his package of the gel lights and a drawing. And that night is the first time I've ever opened it.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do with them.
So your buddy Ted, guys, has a whole pack of huge gels. I mean, we
Yeah.
got enough gels just with our buddy Ted to light up everything. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. You did a good job on that one.
Thank you. Of course, I had to include this one. This was with you, what, 3 years ago?
Uh-huh.
And in Big Bend. And when I was looking for tail lights, I saw this and I like the sky.
Uh-huh.
The sky's not sharp because it's a slow shutter speed, but I just like the photograph
Beautiful.
and good memory.
And now that you know how to stack, you can take all 5 of your pictures that you took or all 6 of your pictures that you took and stack them and get the tail light
Oh,
all the way
yeah.
down. See, that's what I did in my shot that I showed you all
Yeah.
last week. That's 5
Good.
photos. Yeah.
I'll go back and find those and do that.
Yeah. 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 And it looks like you weren't totally focused.
Might not have been.
Yeah.
I may
But
not have been.
I just hiked you a quarter mile through the desert though. So
And it was pretty dark too.
it was pretty dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It was. It was
I may
definitely.
not have been.
Yeah.
I know my clouds are fuzzy and I didn't know that's strictly focus, not the movement of the clouds.
That's the focus. Mhm. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise it would be streaky, but that's just, but
Okay.
see, nothing's in focus. Real sharp anyway. We just won't look at it real close.
Yeah.
Still a good shot. It's
We
good
may have had a
twilight.
couple glasses of wine before we went out.
Yeah,
there.
we did. didn't we? Okay. Super. Okay. Questions for each other before we leave your homework. Y'all did a good job. And then this, Ted, should be your 16 millimeter.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
16 millimeters.
Yeah, because 16 millimeter or that 11 millimeter that Marie has, it's almost 180 degrees. So
Mm.
it'll go all the way over to the sides. So it's a it's good for this type of thing.
And if I could say, is the focus point on the back of the taillights only, or
Now what?
where should the focal point be?
The
in this
focus
pic-
point in this picture, because it's an F-22, the focus point should be a third of the way into the scene. Because when you're doing a landscape shot, especially this, because those mountains are, 20 miles away, but the focus point should be a third of the way in when you're doing landscape photography. And
Well,
when
it's a long exposure, right? Because it's
Mhm.
right. So I thought I had to follow the tail light. Like I thought,
Oh, no.
okay,
No, and even your street scenes should be a third of the way in. And I like to focus on like a street lamp or something like that that's solid. So you should be focused on some sort of street lamp or car or something that's solid in the scene.
okay.
And then
I
just
always
let the cars move.
I also thought maybe the horizon.
Oh, no,
Is
then you're focused too far away. So
Too far away.
you're wasting a lot of depth of field on the other side of the horizon.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good questions. Okay, so just be sure when you're doing your moon, the next full moon that we get anyway, hopefully it'll be clear. Be sure that you're doing noise reduction on that. You shouldn't have a tremendous amount of noise, but you do want to make sure you're doing noise reduction on your moon. And by the way, if you do the moon in March, April, or May, take several photos because a lot of birds migrate by the moon. And it's interesting to see the birds that you get that fly in front of the moon, especially when it's lower to the horizon.
Good.
Okay, so white balance on night photography. This is a little adobe church that's out in the Big Bend region, out in Terlingua area. And we went in at night, used a couple of lanterns to light up the interior, used a flashlight to light up in the belfry, lit up along the edge of the windows. So there's some light painting going on in this. And then you notice we got the stars around it. But this is what it looked like coming out of the camera. And so just be aware that we're going to have to do some processing. It's not a lot of processing. And this raw picture is also coming from an older camera. So we may not get the same thing on our current cameras. Y'all are working with pretty modern equipment. But just be aware of the white balance. This is in Cordoba, Spain. And this is the way it comes straight out of the camera, just, kind of basic old ordinary processing, nothing unusual. And it's under as shot white balance or just auto white balance, shows up as shot in your processing software, but it's just auto white balance. And this isn't bad. We're used to that Kodak Gold look to outdoor photos at night. But if I take my white balance tool and I touch any of these lights that are white on the Mystica, then this is what the photo looks like. So remember that with your white balance tool, you just take the eyedropper and you touch something that should be white. And when you touch something that should be white, it changes the white balance in the photo. And so it takes the photo from this to this by just balancing out that white balance. And then if it's too blue, sometimes for me, it's too blue. So then I move the temperature slider a little bit more toward the gold.
Yeah.
So especially with man-made lights, going from that to more like what we were seeing with our eyes. Oops. And then when we start talking about Milky Way photography, if we have, or many times, we're going to get a white balance that looks like this. And then all we end up doing is just moving it ever so slightly toward the blue temperature. So that temperature slider that you see in either Adobe Camera Raw or Lightroom, you just take it and you move it ever so slightly toward the blue. And this is going to be especially important if you're shooting around any man-made lights when you're doing your stars. We got stars coming up in this next assignment. And those man-made lights will make your sky end up looking like this, kind of a muddy color. But all you got to do is just take your temperature slider a little toward the blue and it cleans it out a lot. Also, your dehaze slider cleans out a lot of this color shift also. Okay, so pinpoint stars. Here's how you do pinpoint stars. Your handout. Everybody has your handout?
Yeah.
Okay, so pinpoint stars are where we have no movement in the stars at all. And remember that the Earth is traveling really, really fast as it's rotating. So we need to make sure that we've got the appropriate shutter speed to stop the movement of the Earth and be able to give us pinpoint stars. So we want no movement in our stars at all. That's what pinpoint stars are. If we take the picture and we blow it up, we don't want any movement in those stars when we blow it up to 100%. So we want, especially toward the edge of the frame, we want the stars to be absolutely pinpoint. And I've just gotten to where now with this type of thing, I blow the picture up to 100% on the back of the camera. I scan the entire area, top, bottom, left, and right, and at magnified at 100% to check to see if I'm seeing any movement in the stars at all. And so the goal is to have no movement in those stars. We just want pinpoint stars. So for instance, in this photograph, this is NeoWise when we had the comment that came through here during lockdown. Now, remember, we're locked down. We're not supposed to go anywhere. And of course, the universe throws a comet at us, so we're not supposed to go anywhere at all. And but I found about 4 hours north of here near Centerville, there is a pocket of the darkest skies in Texas. And so I decided, okay, I could drive up to Centerville and photograph NeoWise because it wasn't a really bright comet anyway. And we were only seeing it toward the sunrise or sunset. So we had to deal with the light in the sky. So here's NeoWise right here. And of course, I get there on the night that the clouds are rolling in. And so now I've got clouds rolling in as I finally get enough darkness so that I don't see so that I can see the comet. And unfortunately, my brain just didn't kick in. So whether it was driving or whether it was, whatever it was, brain just didn't kick in. And I didn't do my shutter speed fast enough. If you look really close, you'll see that the stars are streaked. So it looks good on NeoWise, but it doesn't look good on the stars all the way around the frame. So my stars are slightly streaky on this one. And that's because I started with what I should have started with 20 seconds. But because I'm using my super wide lens, 20 seconds isn't right. So what you end up getting are some little bitty streaks in here, and those little bitty streaks throw it off. We don't want those at all. We're going for no movement in the stars at all. That's our objective. So here's where you do your math formula. And this is our starting point. So it's the formula for this is 500 divided by the millimeters of your lens. So a 16 millimeter lens, that would be 31 seconds. An 18 millimeter lens, that would be 27 seconds. A 10 millimeter lens, that would be 50 seconds. But you also have to factor in the crop factor. So 500 divided by the millimeters of the lens times the crop factor 1.6 or 1.3 or 1.7, whatever it might be. Marie, you've got the 7D, correct? Yeah, so your crop factor is 1.6. So you've got a 1.6 crop factor. Ted, you're using the 5D, right?
Uh-huh.
So you're a full sensor camera. Ron, what are you using?
The Z7, it's a full frame.
It's a full frame. And then Susan, what about yours?
I'm using the Sony R7 IV. I mean, it's a full frame
It's a
camera.
full frame camera also.
I
Okay.
do, well, I do have one that I use that's got a 1-inch sensor. So, so that one is cropped.
That's cropped. So you've got to take it into account. And remember, go back to math class. When you were a kid, you have to do what's in the parentheses first. Otherwise you throw your formula off, and then you do my
Right.
dear Aunt Sally, but multiplication, division, addition and subtraction, but you've always got to do what's in the parentheses first.
Yeah.
Kathy, what is the 500?
500 is just your starting point.
Okay,
So it's 500 divided by, so in your case, Marie, it would be 500 divided by parentheses 11 millimeters for your 11 millimeter lens times 1.6. So that would be your starting point for your seconds.
right.
Okay. So this is your starting point. And I'm usually using a 16 millimeter lens. So this means my starting point is 31 seconds. Now that's where you start out. And you do your first test at, say, in my case, 31 seconds. And 31 seconds is absolutely wrong. It eventually ends up for me being 20 seconds to 15 seconds to get no pinpoint stars. And then once you figure out what the pinpoint star shutter speed is for that lens, it's never going to change. So once you figure it out for that lens, then your pinpoint star setting is always the same. Ted, did we figure it out in Big Bend for yours?
I don't know that we did, but I went out to Junction.
Yeah.
Just to see if I could get some photographs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I ended up in that 20-second range without any movement.
Yeah, it's
with my 16.
Yeah, for the Canon 16 millimeter, it's about 20 seconds. I'm now using a 15 millimeter, and that's why I'm a little bit wider. And so that ends up putting me about 15 seconds now.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever your widest lens is, once you figure out where that sweet point is for no movement in the stars, it's always that way.
Yeah.
So you just got to do a little bit of hunting and pecking and a little bit of work in the field. And then once you figure out what it is, it always is.
I think I'm going to have to leave Manhattan for this.
You might have to. You might have to. You might have to take a vacation.
I will.
You might have to go up north or something.
I might have to visit my mother on Long Island.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So your pinpoint stars, what you're looking for is no movement at all in those stars. And there's a little bit of movement in here. So you're looking for no movement at all in those stars. And
good photograph though.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's either Venus or Jupiter. It's one of the morning stars. It looks
Really
like the moon.
bright.
Yeah, really, really bright.
Well,
And
that
the
was
moon,
taken in morning.
this is in the evening, and so the
Jupiter.
evening star. So that would be Jupiter.
I think Jupiter.
Yeah. And then the moon's coming up in the opposite direction. That's what's lighting up the foreground.
Really sharp.
Yeah. So you're just looking for those stars not to move at all. So you're looking for no movement at all in those stars. It's just as much as you can get. Now, Marie, this is going to be real important for you because you're going to Norway with me for the Northern Lights.
That's
Wow.
right.
So for the Northern Lights, you don't want these streaky stars. So what's your shutter speed for Northern Lights? Whatever it takes with that lens to get you pinpoint stars. And then we just leave it there. And that's where we do all of our photography for Northern Lights is whatever those pinpoint stars happen to be.
How beautiful.
Yeah. So you just got to figure out, where your pinpoint stars are, because anytime we go to do night photography, this is going to be our place. It's usually, by the way, somewhere around 20 seconds. So it's going up to 10 or 15 seconds or going down from 20 seconds, but it's usually about 20 seconds.
That's a great photograph there.
Yeah, it was a good night
Yeah.
of Northern Lights. Really, really good night of Northern Lights.
That's in Norway, right?
Mhm, yeah. This is just off the deck of one of the hotels. So we didn't
Wow.
have to go very far for this one. So you've got to watch out for too much noise introduction. So you're going to figure out what your shutter speed is. You're going to use your wide open aperture. So that puts you at 3.5, that puts you at 2.8, that puts you at 1.4, whatever your wide open aperture is. So that's where your f-stop is and your shutter speed. And then your ISO, according to your handout, is going to be in the 800 range or 1600 range. If it's really, really, really dark and you have got no moon whatsoever in the sky, then it's going to be, then your ISO is going to be about 1600. If we've got a little bit of moon in the sky or we've got some city lights, then your ISO is going to be 800. I've gotten to the point where I've used an ISO 400 or 200 based on how much moon was in the sky. So you don't want more ISO than you need, because if you put too much ISO in there, then you're going to end up overexposing your stars. So it's just you've already got your shutter speed established. It's a wide open f-stop. And then your ISO is starting at 1600 for a really dark sky. And it's going from 800 or maybe to 400 if we've got some moon, or 200 if we've got some moon in the sky. This weekend coming up is a dark sky. Yeah.
What are the streaks?
The streaks are meteors.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a composite image of the Leonid meteor shower. And so the streaks are the different meteors that we captured.
Wow.
And where'd you get this one?
This is in Central Texas.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I had a friend who's got a ranch in Central Texas. This is for you people in Texas, this is out near Abilene. Pretty dark sky out there. And this is just the camera left on all night long, photographing whatever comes through. But it's got to be pinpoint stars. So you don't want your stars to streak. So this is just one 15-second exposure after one 15-second exposure after one 15-second exposure. So it's a lot of pictures to go through. And then I composited it and put all the meteors that we got together. This is ISO 1600. So a really dark sky, little bit of city lights coming in, but then this is the 5D Mark IV. But then this is the Canon Rebel at 1600.
Wow.
So
That's pretty.
the 5D at 1600. You're supposed to be looking at the noise, Marie, not the house. Yeah, there you go.
I was looking at the stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is Block Creek, by the way, where we do the workshops in the Texas Hill Country. This is the main house. But you see how much noise there is at ISO 1600 on a Canon Rebel and how much noise there is at 1600 on a 5D Mark IV.
And
So
is the dark sky the same?
it's the dark, these are taken at the exact same time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
they're taken at the exact same time. So how much noise you're going to get is so much dependent on how your camera handles high ISO. And luckily you all are working with pretty good equipment, so you shouldn't have as much trouble as this older Rebel did.
Kathy, do
Yes.
you have an app for a map to find the dark skies? Do you
Oh.
use
I used a dark sky map. And
that's what I'm looking at a darksitefinder.com.
it might have been. I just Googled a dark sky map, and then I was able to blow it up and start looking and all over near where I live. And that's how I was able to find those pockets of dark sky.
Yeah, I'm looking at some right now.
It might be the same thing. Yeah.
We're gonna have to go quite a ways out.
Well, that place up near Centerville was amazing. And it's about you get off the freeway and you go about 25 minutes out into the farm fields. It's going closer to one of the river valleys. And I was surprised how dark it was out there.
Yeah, I'm just above Huntsville. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I thought I'd have to go out further toward West Texas, but it ended up being, there's little pockets here and there. You just have to be able to find them.
And what do you call those dark areas? I've seen reference, people mention what zone they're in of darkness.
Yeah, it's dark sky areas. They're
What do
just
they call
called.
that? It starts with a B, like what Blythe area you're in, they say.
Oh, it could be.
Okay.
I'm sure astronomers have a word for it. Anybody else know? No?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And you're going to have a sturdy tripod. And I don't use a real heavy tripod. I use the Me Photo Globetrotter, classic carbon fiber, but you do need a sturdy tripod, and you need to be able to lock it down, lock the camera down, make sure you turn off your image stabilization. And then there's another setting in your camera. I don't know, make it in the margin just in case I didn't add it, but make sure your internal noise reduction is turned off, because your internal noise reduction is where the camera takes a second picture and then reduces the noise between the two pictures. And you don't want a second picture going on for 20 seconds at night. So be sure that you turn that off.
What was the other,
Pardon?
what was the other thing? You said,
And
the noise,
your image stabilization and your internal noise reduction. Be sure both of those are turned off.
Kathy, do you know that if you're using, occasionally I use bean bags to stabilize my camera. If you use that, should you do the same, turn off
Oh, yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
using bean bags? Okay.
Yes,
Right.
yes. And you know what's happening with the, now, if you're moving your camera around and we're just doing like photography from a beanbag, then keep your image stabilization on. But if your camera is absolutely locked down and there's nothing to do, that lens just keeps jerking, trying to stabilize itself. And so
Oh,
that's
okay.
why you want to turn it off,
Okay,
because
thanks.
it's just giving that little bit of jerk. And then once you get your camera all stabilized, then we've got to make sure that we focus on infinity. And if you are a Nikon user, the infinity symbol is going to go right in the middle of the little gold bar. And if you are a Canon user, the white line is going to line up with the little white line. So that's where your infinity is. So each one of your lenses has an infinity. And then Susan, on yours, you've got the Sony, right, Susan?
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
So on Sony's, it's the little line right in the middle of the infinity symbol.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah. And so you figure out where your little infinity symbol is, or where your focus is on the infinity. And if you're using a mirrorless camera, when we look through the viewfinder, then we've also got, when we turn off all of our focus on our cameras, then we've got a little infinity symbol inside, and we line those up as well. So you've got to know where your infinity setting is, and then test that to make sure that that really works. Most of the time it does. Some of the older lenses, if they've been kind of dropped or, treated hard, then the infinity symbol, the infinity focus may not be in exactly the same spot, but that's where it should be anyway.
That's some pretty high ISO on that camera.
Oh yeah, that was big high ISO on that camera. No telling what else I was doing on that one. Yeah, that's a pretty high ISO on that camera. Yeah.
Kathy, on the
Yes.
new Nikon Z mirrorless, they're not putting that aperture settings on the focus settings on the lenses,
No, on mirrorless, you're going to do it inside.
but I see it inside.
Yeah, just like this. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's the same that Nikon now, you're going to go right in the middle of the infinity symbol, unless they gave you a little line or something.
Yeah, I think they have some pro model lenses, and I think they have that bar on the lens.
Well,
Not on
because
their
of
kit lenses.
the way mirrorless lenses are now, we just don't have any of that stuff on them.
Yeah.
And so, because we've got it all inside the camera.
Okay.
So you've got to know where your infinity setting is. And then it's routine from there on. So it's cameras on the tripod, focus on infinity, set your f-stop, set your shutter speed, set your ISO, turn off your image stabilization, turn off your long exposure noise reduction, which we don't want on anyway, that one. And then from there on, the biggest problem that you might have is as you're walking around at night, setting up different compositions, the lens might slip out of focus. So just make sure that you watch things, you pay attention to things. Ron's right. It's good to have a buddy with you so you're not stepping off curbs and tripping over stuff while you're trying to move around in the dark as well. But from there on, then your pinpoint stars just become fairly routine. And if you can see the stars with your eyes, we're going to see them on the finished product. So if you can see them with your eyes, we can see them on the finished product, finished photo. Questions on that?
That's a panorama, I bet.
That's a panorama. That one really is.
That is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is hard as I'll get out too, because the Milky Way during July goes overhead. So some of the pictures are straight overhead.
Wow.
It is a booger to photograph. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's an awesome photograph.
Oh, thank you very much. The basin out in Big Bend. So that's Casa Grande right there. Okay, so your Milky Way. Milky Way right now is just reclining on the horizon. It's very barely visible right now, but it's starting to move up into the sky from now through October. It'll be moving up into the sky. And for photographing the Milky Way, it is pinpoint stars. That's it. So it's just pinpoint stars, the same shutter speed we just talked about, f-stop we just talked about, ISO that we just talked about. It's the exact same settings we just talked about. So the Milky Way is nothing but your pinpoint stars. So all the work that you're doing now on these little, whatever stars we have over the next couple of days when you're doing your homework, that's going to be your training for making sure that when you do have that Milky Way, that you're able to photograph your Milky Way. The galactic cloud is what the prize that all the photographers want right here, the galactic cloud. And so you've got to know your photo pills and your photographer's ephemeris will tell you when that's coming up above the horizon, when you can see it. Sometimes it comes up above the horizon, 10 o'clock, something like that on civilized times. Other times it comes up above the horizon from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning. And so you've got to know when it's going to be above the horizon, what time of the night we're going to have to get up to be able to see the galactic cloud, and if we're going to be able to see it. Ted, did we get it when you went to Big Bend with me?
We did. We got some photographs of the Milky Way.
Okay, good.
Mine
good.
wasn't that bright, but it may have been my processing too.
Yeah, could have been. Could have been. Yeah, the last trip that we did last August, it rained every night, so we didn't get lightning and we didn't get a Milky Way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was about 4
Bumped
years
out.
ago when I went.
Yeah. So your
Is
milk.
Is
Yeah.
the southern hemisphere better for photographing the Milky Way?
No, both
No?
of them are okay. Right. Yeah,
Okay.
both of them are okay. This is October in Romania when the Milky Way is standing directly straight up and down. So it just all depends on where you are. But for us in the Northern Hemisphere, the Milky Way is a February through about November or so. And then we just start not seeing it as much. But it moves around in the sky, changes its angle, and changes its brightness. And then like now, or really January, the galactic cloud is below the horizon. So it's not as interesting. It's just, it's okay, but it's just not as interesting.
So the galactic cloud is just part of the Milky Way.
It is. Yeah, it's this really nice piece right here.
And they actually tell you, I did see galactic. I didn't know what it was, but I figured it had something to do with the Milky Way.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're looking through the Milky Way from where the Earth is. So we're looking through the galaxy. And so that's that core of it right there. Yeah.
Wow.
There we go. And then you can play around with that. Once you know where your Milky Way is, it's not very powerful here in this night sky, but once you know where your Milky Way is, then you can put things in front of it and, light stuff up. And so you know about light painting now, you know about pinpoint stars. Now all we need is an opportunity for the galactic cloud. But then that's this summertime. We got to get it. Using your light to light up the foreground. So, just painting the foreground with your galactic cloud in the background. So you just start putting all this stuff together and just working with it. This is April, and we could only see the galactic cloud from something like 4 o'clock in the morning to 4:45, and then the sun started coming up at 5, I think it was. So there's just this super narrow window for getting the galactic cloud.
What month is the best time to, or is it depends on where you are?
It depends on where you are, but it's summer. So it's that June, July, and August. That's just the best time. The downside is that where you are, your nights are shorter.
Yes.
Because that your days are so long. So we're doing this trade-off thing. And even out in the western part of Texas, we don't even see it until 10:30 at night. And yeah, so it's a narrow window sometimes.
Kathy,
Yeah.
did you say the photo pills, they make a notation of the galactic cloud?
They do. Yeah. There is a computer software program that I like better because it just gives me my big computer desktop that I can play with. And it's called Sky Guide. And I can sit there with the calendar and I can rotate the days through the calendar. I can watch the galactic cloud move through the sky. And I just find that it's a lot easier for me to use than something that I'm holding in my hand on my cell phone. It's called
Sky Guide.
I think it's called Sky Guide. Yeah, when I quit sharing my screen this evening, I'll tell you all what it is. Downside, it doesn't work on my latest version of my Mac. And so I don't have access to it anymore, but I've used it for many, many years.
Oh, wow.
So star trails, once we get those pinpoint stars, now we're gonna streak those stars to give us something else. So star trails. So this is where we need that programmable shutter release. And I know that your camera has an intervalometer, but it's just so much easier to do this on the Velo shutter boss. And we talked about this before, that this Velo shutter boss is just a inexpensive little gadget that works on everybody's camera, and it's super easy to use, very nice, easy functionality to use, and sturdy as all get out. So what a star trail is, how many of you all have tried these or done them? Yeah, Ted, did we do them when you were with me, Ted?
Yes,
Yeah.
about 4 years ago or so.
Okay. Anybody else? Nobody else? No? Okay, so the star trails, what we're doing is we're pointing toward the north because that's where the North Star is. Southern Hemisphere, Susan, you asked about that. We point toward the Southern Star, or the Southern Cross. And these are the navigating stars that humans have used since, we learned how to navigate on the open seas. So we point toward the North Star, and then what happens is the Earth pivots around that North Star, and that's what gives us the spiral. So for your star trails, we're just trying to point toward the north. We use the intervalometer, and I've given you the example on the handout. So where you need to set everything. We're doing a 4-minute exposure. That means 4 minutes with the shutter open, 1 second break, 4 minutes. And we're setting it for as long as it'll possibly go. So the Velo shutter boss will do 399 exposures if your battery lasted that long. It takes roughly 15 photos per hour. You can do these in RAW, you can do them in JPEG, it doesn't really matter. If you do them in RAW, then you get a little bit more processing capabilities. So I just like doing them in RAW. And then you set your camera. I've given you on the page with star trails, I've given you your camera settings. So if you're using an older camera, which you all aren't, use JPEG, otherwise you can use RAW. You want to set your camera on bulb. You want your f-stop to be the biggest f-stop you can get, the 4.5, 5.6, 2.8, 3.5. Your ISO is going to be 800 or 1600, but you need to take a test shot because if there is some moon in the sky, your ISO might be 400 or 200. So be careful of that. Your image stabilization, vibration reduction, we're going to turn that off. Autofocus, we're going to turn it off. And long exposure noise reduction, we're going to turn it off. So there's all your little check marks right there so that you can, so that you know everything. Yeah.
Kathy, what's the recommended lens for this?
So whatever you would do for your stars. So that would be your 11 millimeter.
Right.
Because you want as much sky as you can get.
Okay. Okay.
Because it's not interesting if you don't have a lot of sky.
Right. Right.
So you need as much sky as you can get. You need sturdy tripod. Everything's on the sturdy tripod and locked down really well. And then you want to do some test shots. Take your first 4-minute exposure, look at the picture on the back of the frame, make sure that you're in focus, make sure that you're, because we're focused on infinity, make sure your foreground isn't too out of focus. So, you know, take your first 4-minute exposure. And then I always recommend that people take one more 4-minute exposure before they finally slide that or turn that intervalometer on and walk away. Because, you know, once you walk away from it, if there's any mistakes, then you just ended up wasting your time. So check it, you know, a couple of times. You might need to change your ISO. And if you're using a lens, by the way, that goes to 1.4 or 1.8, and a lot of people that start doing a lot of star photography buy a dedicated lens. I'll talk about that in just a second. If you're using a lens that is a 2.8, then all my settings work. But if you get a lens that's a 1.4 or a 1.2, you're going to really have to lower your ISO because there's so much light coming through.
Kathy, that's why I walked away. I went to get a lens that I bought for this.
Yes.
1.8.
And which one is it?
20 millimeter fix. 1.8.
Yeah. And who made it?
Nikon. It's a Z.
It's a Z lens. Okay. Okay. Now 20 millimeters is not that wide. I mean, it's wide.
Yeah.
But your 15 millimeter is going to be wider, or your 16 millimeter is going to be wider. So a 20 millimeter, it's wide, but it's not as wide as some of the other lenses might be.
Well, I have the Z lens. It's a 14 to 24 Z, but it's f4, I think.
Yes. Yeah. So I see why you're using that, and that'll be neat to test that lens compared to your 14. So that'll be really neat. So you go through the cycle and then you turn it on, and then this is about an hour and a half. So you start getting a spiral at about an hour. So this is about an hour and a half here. Tripod, I don't have a tripod here. So this is a smashed Coke can where I just put my heel on it and made an indentation in the Coke can. And I put the lens in the lens is resting on a Coke can and the camera is sitting on the ground. Yeah, because somebody else is using my tripod. And I found that I really like this tripod. You know? It's
That's
hard to level
job.
sometimes, but it's a really good tripod because
Yeah.
you know, nobody's going to kick it for sure.
And the foreground's very interesting from that eye level.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And so I think it's kind of a neat, I think it's a neat little thing. What happened too, the clouds end up rolling in and everything's over with. Once the clouds roll in, it's over. This is a 30-second exposure as opposed to a 4-minute exposure. So what happens at a 30-second exposure is you get too many little breaks in here. So if you look at it really carefully, it's got more little breaks in those streaks than we would like it to.
Mhm.
If it is really, really cold outside, you could even go to an 8-minute exposure instead of a 4-minute exposure, but you'd need the added cold to keep the sensor from overheating. And that'll give you even less breaks. So even more of a smooth spiral. And this is 9 hours. So looking straight north, the Milky Way's in the north, where the galactic cloud's in the north. And so this is what happens when you can go 9 hours.
Now, do you have to be on that star, that North Star when you start? Does it have to be right on it?
On the, well, you know, you're facing north. So all I
Right.
do is I put the compass on the top of the camera and I make sure that the camera is facing north.
That's all you have to do. You don't have to say, hit that star.
No, no,
Okay.
no, no, don't have to do anything like that. Don't have to align or anything like that. No, no.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And then just go inside and go sleep. Cover the camera. I cover the camera with a towel at night, wrap the towel around the camera, wrap the intervalometer around the camera, and then go inside and go to sleep. Try not to worry about your camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. You wrap the camera with a towel to keep the condensation off of it.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's a good
And
point. I hadn't
and
thought
so-
of that.
Just in case it's a dewy morning that you hadn't
Yeah.
counted, and especially here on the coast, that you know, you're going to get a lot of condensation come morning time. The battery's dead. The camera's not taking pictures anymore. You just want to keep that camera as dry as you can.
Yeah.
So I leave the lens hood on and I wrap the towel all the way around the edge of the lens hood, wrap the intervalometer around the towel, and then tuck the intervalometer in the towel. So if the wind starts blowing, nothing moves.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of the towel
Mhm.
thing, but that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, yeah.
Kathy, I happened to buy a little lens heater.
Mhm.
Well, it's a heating strap.
Yes,
When
yeah,
I bought my move, shoot, move
yeah, yeah,
equipment, I threw that in.
yeah. And Kevin Adams has a design for that where you put hand warmers in his little lens strap and then you wrap the strap around the lens just to keep the dew off the lens so that the lens stays warm. Yeah. Not bad, especially if you're in a place that's prone to dew in the morning. And then you've got to plan your shot. You've got to figure out where you need to be, what's going to be in the foreground, what we're going to have to deal with. And this is one in Arizona where I just knew that there was a skeleton of an old saguaro cactus. And luckily I had access to 360 degrees around it. Unfortunately, Tucson is to the north of this saguaro cactus. So that's the lights of Tucson. Even though Tucson's a dark sky city, that's still the lights of Tucson. But it's not bad. So you've got to plan your shot. Where are you going to be? What's to the north? And, this is what you do during the day. You figure out where your camera's going to need to be and how high it's going to need to be and everything else. Tanzania. Notice over on the far left-hand side of the frame, because Tanzania is on the equator, that's where the pivot of the North Star is over on the left side of the frame. And the acacia trees in Tanzania, it's really, really dark, but the acacia trees in Tanzania were lit up by the porch light of the cabins we were staying in. So this is just a turn the porch light off, and that lit up the acacia trees. And then
So
another,
it's even nice when it's not in the center. I mean, that was
Yeah.
very pretty.
yeah. And then here, it's a little right here. I think we're at the same, almost the same acacia tree, same camp anyway, following year. So here's the pivot going on right there. And then pivots back over here in Morocco. The little gap that you see all the way through, notice each one of the star trails has a gap in it. And that's where I woke up in the middle of the night, went to test the camera and turned it off and on. Shouldn't have done that. That's a little gap. So don't test the camera. And then notice too, no city lights at all. So the stars go all the way to the horizon.
Wow.
Yeah. So we spent 2 nights in the Sahara to do nothing but star photography when we were in Morocco. And then this is outside of Houston. So Marie, you were talking about going to Long Island. It doesn't take much to
Right.
get. This is up for us. It's up near Huntsville, so it doesn't take much to get away from the city lights. Susan, you were talking about going down to, you know, your property on the coast. It doesn't take much. We just need to get away from the majority of those city lights. And if we can see the stars of the Big Dipper, we're in a good enough place to get a star trail. Okay. So it doesn't take much. And then, you know, we just point the camera wherever we're doing whatever we're doing. The little green things are fireflies. So this is out near Fredericksburg in the hill country. And here's more fireflies on the tributary to the Amazon in Peru. I mean, they were having a heyday this night. So once again, this is the Southern Cross right here, the galactic center of the Milky Way on the Southern Cross. The little streak right there is the reflection of those stars in the river.
Kevin Adams loves those little fireflies.
Yes, he does. He does. He does.
Kathy, on battery life, I know there's a lot of difference in the battery timing, but will a single battery last for the evening?
This is probably only 3 hours.
Okay.
So most of my star trails now, especially getting into mirrorless, are end up being about 3 hours. Some of the star trails, I was doing the digital SLRs, we could do that 9 hours, but that's a really long time for one of these batteries, really long time. But this is about 3 hours. So you can get a real nice star trail in 3 hours.
So with just the shots every 4 seconds, it's enough to get through.
Yeah. And it's every 4 minutes, remember? So we're doing one exposure every 4 minutes.
I do have a battery pack that has 2 batteries.
Yeah, that'll even last any longer. And then notice too that these stars are going all the way down the horizon. Another one of those things that we just don't get to see around our urban areas. This is down in Brazil. So this is using the Southern Cross as our pivot point. And here, this kind of hazy area right through here is the galactic center of the Milky Way. Moon is illuminating the foreground as the moon comes up during the exposure. So once the moon came up in the dark area like this, then everything's over with. So just knowing that I had probably 2.5 hours between dark sky and when the moon came up, I knew I had enough time to do the star trail. And this is a Jabiru stork nest right here. And, you know, here around a hotel in Brazil, just it's dark enough, but that's not many lights on that hotel. And it pretty much blew everything out. So the man-made lights are just way too bright. Out in Big Bend, this is a Rokinon. And it's one of the lenses that people like to buy just for night photography. And you can buy them for Nikon's, Canon's, Sony's, Olympus's, Pentax's. And this is a 14 millimeter. And for me, the Rokinon at 14 millimeter was almost too wide. Now this is full frame, Marie, so don't get worried. Your 11 is fine, okay?
Right.
But for me, that 14 millimeter was almost too wide. And this is what I was pointing out with your 20 millimeter, Ron, is the 14 millimeter for me was almost too wide, a little bit of distortion over on the left side of this picture. But the 15's better, the 16's almost ideal. So your 20 might be exactly what you're looking for without getting too much distortion over on the side. And this is that one light lifted up and turned back down. So it's just lit up the foreground for 2 seconds, 3 seconds with that Savage light. And look at all the colors in those stars. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. It's good. And then this is blended with a software called Astro Panel. So you can buy this software and it blends your star trail for you. The only good thing that I like about it is that it makes the starting point a little bit more enhanced. So you kind of get this Go back. See, they're all the same width, where Astro Panel allows, one of the options is to make the starting point fatter. So
Okay.
just in case you want to look at it, it's Star Trail. It's a Star Trail blending software.
I bought something. I'm going to see what it is. I can't remember.
Okay.
Oh, I have something called Pro Panel.
Pro Panel. Yeah, this is called Astro Panel 4.0.
It's the same thing. It's for astrophotography.
Okay. And, you know, I bought it and I've used it probably 5 times. So, you know, yeah, it's there if I need it. Yeah. This is blended with Astro Panel also. So you see that I get a little bit more pronounced. You can see it right over here, a little bit more pronounced in the beginning of each star trail or streak. So it gives you kind of a different effect that we may not be able to create on our own. This is the LED panel once again to light up the foreground. And here's those lightning bugs again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I took this picture and I just, I love all the colors of the stars, all the different, you know, shades of color that we get with the stars. And I just hated that the lightning bugs just photobombed me completely. I posted it on Facebook, you know, and everybody loved it. And they were telling me how they liked it. And so I've left it like it is, that, you know, I just got photobombed by a bunch of lightning bugs. I did when I did in all the layers, because this is once again, you know, about 3 or 4 hours. I did go in and I took some of the lightning bugs out, especially where they overlapped too much and created too many blobs.
It looks like a Van Gogh.
It does,
I would say, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's amazing how much color we can get out of those stars. I mean, it's just pretty incredible, the different color of all the different stars out there.
Yeah.
And then my warning to you is make sure you're focused before you go in and go to sleep, because otherwise you just wasted all your time. And this is one of those where I got back to my cabin and then thought, did I really focus? Did I check my focus on that? And I went on to sleep, and lo and behold, I didn't double check my focus. So make sure that you have that little check sheet, or make a little check sheet from all of my, be sure all of these are covered. And if you have to, put it on your phone or put it on a little card or something like that, and just make sure that you get all those details covered. Because you get out there and it's dark and it's maybe cold, or, you know, whatever, and you're going to forget one thing. And if you forget one thing, you blew your picture.
Kathy, where isn't it focused? On the bottom?
It's not focused. If you look at the windmill,
Yeah.
the windmill's not focused. And then if you look at the star right above, the star right above just shows you that it's not really focused. Just slightly.
You know, there's so much going on when you do one of these that I think it's okay. I know what you're saying though, but
yeah. And if you don't look at it close, it's okay. And so the last time that I went to this location, or when I went to this location in January, it was okay. We are going to put everything, you know, and you get to talking to other photographers and you get to helping each other out. And before you know it, you forgot one step. So that's where you got to make sure you pay attention to everything. Okay, your instructions for blending are on your handout. And you know, you're going to use these now on star trails. You're going to use these on car tail lights. So these blending modes you can use now for all kinds of things, these blending instructions. So they're all on your handout. Your blending modes are on your, or blending instructions. And then what you're going to work on next week is you're going to photograph a scene with pinpoint stars in the sky and then try to paint the foreground. We should have little or no moonlight. We have dark sky on on Saturday. So we're going into a dark phase of the moon. So we've got very little light coming from the moon. So it's going to be about as good as it gets, provided we don't have any clouds. Yeah. So if there is a place where you can go on Friday night, Saturday night, or Sunday night, it's about as good as it's going to get for the moon. And then try your hand at a star trail if you want to see if it'll work. Remember, it only takes about an hour and a half. And even if you do happen to be in more of an urban environment, as long as you can see all the stars of the Milky Way, excuse me, all the stars of the Big Dipper, you have enough stars for a star trail. And then try to photograph the night sky with a visible constellation. We may not have a Milky Way right now, but a visible constellation. So can you do Orion's belt? Can you do the Big Dipper? Visible constellation.
Where are the blending instructions you mentioned?
The blending instructions are on processing star trails. It should be the next to the last page.
Okay. Okay, those are just the camera settings you were talking about?
No, those are the Adobe Camera Raw or Lightroom settings. And then your camera settings are on the page with the little intervalometer at the bottom of it, the Velo Shutter Boss 2 at the bottom.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are all your little check marks for your
So where was the Adobe Raw or the Lightroom at?
the next to the last page. Processing star trails up at the top.
Processing. Oh, it's the last page. Okay, next. Oh, and you went over that this evening?
No, I didn't go over that.
I kind of missed. Have you gone over it?
No, you want me to?
Oh, no, I just want to, I thought maybe I missed it.
No, you didn't miss it. Not at
Okay.
all. So all you're doing is you just download all those images into a folder, and in
Yeah.
Bridge, you can open that folder. If you're in Lightroom, open the folder also. Highlight all the photos in the star trail. And then in Bridge, you're going to go Tools, Photoshop, load into Photoshop layers. In Lightroom, you have them all highlighted, and you'll go edit into Photoshop layers.
Okay.
And then you wait for Photoshop open and all the layers to load. And then in the layers palette, you'll highlight all the pictures, click the layer style and select lighten. And then it just did all your work for you.
Yeah, I remember that's what you did last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using Bridge.
Yes.
I'm using it occasionally.
Yes. So easy to use. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's what this program, I bought this Pro Panel. I think it does that too.
Yeah. Try to do it yourself and then see how Pro Panel does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got your homework assignment?
Ooh.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad we're going to have some good weather this week.
Pinpoint stars with your foreground painted. Yeah, dark sky. What do we have for this weekend in our area? Oh, it's only going to be cloudy on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So there you go.
I think we're going to have to do it sooner in the week.
So you're going to photograph a scene
We'll
with
get a break.
pinpoint stars and the foreground painted. Remember, you can paint it with your cell phone if you need to, little or no moonlight, and then try your hand at a star trail if you can, and then see if you can do a visible constellation, because I know you won't have a Milky Way. And then I promised you that I would, you all can't see my screen now. So that software that I like is called Sky Gazer 4.5. Sky Gazer 4.5.
You said it doesn't work on the recent Mac
Exactly.
updates?
Yeah. Yeah. Not that I've checked recently, but Sky Gazer 4.5. And I just like it because you can put in wherever you are in the world, and you can do it by GPS coordinates. And then you can go through the calendar and you can start moving the calendar, and you can just watch the night sky move across, and you can ask it to do the Milky Way, the constellations, the moon. And for me, it's just real simple to use.
Okay.
Pretty neat program.
You'll just have to reload it at a different version or wait for them to make a.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
wait,
just upgraded my iMac to the Monterey.
uh-huh,
I'm wondering if it's compatible.
yeah. And that's just where every once in a while, when I want to use it, I'll go check and, are you all ready? Have you all moved forward?
Right.
So is this just for the Apple or the,
No, I started using it on PC and it's probably still works on a PC.
oh, okay. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It says 4.5.
When
Yeah.
I turned in my company computer, I went to Mac, so I haven't had a Windows operation since I retired.
Yeah,
Me
that's
too.
me. I haven't had it in a long time. So it stayed with me, that sky gazer stayed with me for a long time, but it just stopped recently. Finally hit some sort of operating system in Mac that it wasn't compatible with. Any
Kathy,
questions?
I hope I can get outside the city I really do, because that's the one bad thing about the city is it's just too much light.
Yep. And we're in the same position. It's just too
Yeah.
much light. And it's a shame because we can't see our stars. And every once in a while when I take the trash out, I can see a couple up there, but
So you think, Kathy, Houston option might be to go north to Centerville?
I'd go north. You could go Huntsville up to Centerville. You might even be able to go to Huntsville State Park. But Susan and I were talking about it earlier. Brazos Bend State Park has that observatory and it's south.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm looking at that dark site right
mhm.
now. Looks like the closest thing southeast, like it's way out in Eagle Lake.
Well,
If you go southwest.
Atwater Prairie Chicken Refuge is not a bad place. It's out near Eagle Lake or Sealy. It's out near Sealy. So you're just trying to get anywhere you can that's away from the city.
So that's one way south of Sealy, and then like you said, up by Centerville, going towards Crockett, over towards Lufkin.
So Marie, you're going to have to check on the calendar. The same thing, dark sky.
Oh, let me
Yeah.
go there and check.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I see New York.
I do have a question that's you brought up last time. You mentioned that when you save a file or when you're taking a file to choose Adobe RGB, when I save something as a JPEG, it automatically defaults to sRGB. Is that because that's as big or great as it can go?
That's the file format for a JPEG, yeah, or the color space for a JPEG.
I have the opportunity in the export of Lightroom to change it to Adobe. Does it make sense to do that?
And still be a JPEG?
And still be a JPEG.
I think it's going to be a bigger, it's going to be a bigger file.
But is there a benefit to it, or is it just going to be what it is because it's a JPEG?
I think it's just what it is because it's a JPEG. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Marie,
So point.
Marie, I have my camera set to take it in the Adobe. What is it? 1968.
Mm-hmm.
And I take my raw file in Adobe 1968, and I work with it all through the processing. Then right at the end, I convert it to a JPEG.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep it at JPEG. So I do that too.
So
You're
you
right.
see more colors. You see more colors, more
Mhm.
finite colors than the JPEG.
Yeah.
Right. No, I'm working on it in RAW. And then when I send it to Kathy, I change it to a JPEG.
Right.
And it says, do you want to, it defaults to sRGB.
Correct.
And I'm thinking, should I be defaulting to JPEG Adobe RGB? But I am processing it or working on it in a raw Adobe RGB.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're doing it right.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
Cool. Thank
Now,
you.
the sRG, that's just that's the term on your PC, on your monitor.
Mhm.
And then it puts it in the JPEG file.
It's a different color space and it has fewer colors than Adobe RGB. But once you're finished with it and change it to JPEG, then that's when it should be an sRGB. Mhm.
Gotcha.
Marie, I just looked on this dark skies. The closest thing to New York is north of you as a dark sky near Slide Mountain.
What's it called? Slide Mountain?
STIDE. SLIDE, Slide Mountain.
Oh, Slide
Trying
Mountain.
to see a town. I've got too much.
I didn't think about going that way.
North of Monticello. You know where Kingston is?
Yeah. I'm not going.
But you know,
Yeah,
but
it's Slide
Marie,
Mountain. It's up
there's some-
near Poughkeepsie. It's west of Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie.
okay,
Poughkeepsie.
Okay.
there's
You know what's-
there's some good Star Trail and night sky stuff done from Long Island. And you mentioned Long Island. There's
Yeah.
some interesting stuff done.
Yeah.
I have, my parents have a house in East Hampton. They don't face north, but there's a great little park near it that does. I mean, directly north. But I also have a friend. See, I could go there, but nobody's coming with me, you know?
Yeah.
So I could go to Mattatuck, and they even have some sort of constellation center over there or near there by Southold, I think. And a couple of the guys, like when I was taking on the beach, they told me you should come over there because people go there. But I'm going to drag my friend Amory to just a dark little place and
Yeah.
tell her she has to sit there with me. The thing
right.
is, when I go to take, she's very north. So when I go to take the photo, I would like to leave it on her deck and not out in the wilderness somewhere.
Correct.
Right.
And then you don't have to worry about it.
Right. My
Yeah.
parents, the only way to get north is to go all the way to the water. And unfortunately, they're so close to the water that it hits the bulkhead and comes up on the deck. And I don't want to jeopardize the camera.
Well, also give up on the idea of trying to go north, because if you can get someplace where it's dark and you can still work on a star trail, even if it's an arc with the blurry water underneath it, it could be a really neat photograph. And so,
that's true.
yeah. And so, kind of, remove the parameter where you have to be facing north. Let's just work
Right.
on a star trail.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it is my first one. I'm not going to
Yeah.
be expecting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
You don't
know,
have to be totally
Very-
perfect. Yeah.
that's right.
Okay. Other questions? Y'all good? Okay. I can't
Good.
wait to see your work. Y'all have fun. Enjoy
Thank you.
yourself.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Okay.
Later.
Okay. I'll share the recording with you all tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.